Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Music Writing, Ranking, and Reviewing podcast I like to call Music Meltdown, in which we rate, rank, and review any artist discography, songs, musical topics, really whatever comes to mind. This episode, we're talking about one of my all-time favorite songwriters. I think that this man is a great gay bundle of joy. Of course, I'm talking about the one, the only Rufus Wainwright. Man who's gone through the hell of a ringer within his lifetime, but the music that he's put out is incredibly emotional. It's incredibly sort of moving. I pretty much love the vast majority of what he's done. Not really much I can complain about here. I don't think that he's made a bad album. The only thing to really remark on here, in contrast to sort of normal things, is per the usual, I don't usually include covers records, so I'm not going to include Full Crocracy. However, if you did want to know, that would be my number four by him, and it would also be my number, I believe, seven of the entirety of this year. So just gonna miss out on my top five. However, with that being said, it's time to talk about the studio records of Rufus Wainwright. According to note, I'm not including any of his sort of more opera, more theatrical releases. I just simply think that they're way too different to compare with his standard studio records. Basically, all of the pop records that Rufus Wainwright put out is what I'm going to be talking about. And my least favorite of those is All Days Are Nights songs for Lulu. It's still good, but for me, it's just easily the weakest batch of songs Wainwright ever put together. Although Martha near the beginning is absolutely outstanding. It's among his most laid back and more vocally led records, and while Rufus is just an absolute all star singer, his voice is just absolutely outstanding. It just simply lacks the songwriting chops to really boost it up. And after the sonnets, not much really does it for me. Despite that, I love Rufus. Even a weaker crop of material is going to be elevated by his angelic voice. I'm at 3.5 stars, which I'm going to be for these bottom two records, which the record that followed it, Out of the Game, is next on my list. Another very solid Rufus record. This one shows him even more embracing the show tune nature of himself with more synth and theatrical styles. This is definitely his most overt pop leaning. This record was actually produced by Mark Ronson, who you would know from stuff like Uptown Funk. He's just brilliant. One of his best vocal releases. The title track, Rashida, Song of You Are All Stunning. Similar to Lulu, however, there's a string of tracks on here that I don't necessarily love. Mound Talk, Bitter Tears, and Respectable Dive kind of kill the mood for me, but still a very solid, good record, 3.5 stars. And this is sort of something fun that I wanted to point out. I actually saw Rufus Wainwright live this year. I'll probably put up a picture or something of him, and it was great. His voice is just absolutely outstanding. I was so close to the show, and he's just like singing from the heart. It basically sounds like the record, but with the emotionality just touched up even more. It's more stripped back, acoustic and piano. It was just a great show. Really enjoyed it. Going from there is it was actually the anniversary of the Want records, and he played a lot of them. For example, on the record Want 2, which is next for me. For me, this is a bit of a letdown compared to the first Want record, but I'm already at 4 stars for Rufus. The songwriting isn't quite as strong as the two records before it. As well, this one has some more contemporary styles that I'm not quite a fan of. As well, Old Horse Diet might be my least favorite song that Rufus ever did. Aside from that, the rest of the track listing is very good. Rufus sounds superb, and his arrangements are still very lush, very ornate, and just gorgeous. Little Sister, The Art Teacher, This Love Affair, and Crumb by Crumb were my favorites. It's just an incredibly well-made singer-songwriter record. I love Rufus's take on this sort of Baroque style. It really does call back to older music, but he's able to blend in modern production styles and modern songwriting techniques that I think really make him have such a unique flair to his songs. For example, next up, the record I'm talking about is Release the Stars. This feels more connected to his sort of more operatic influences to me. His vocals soaring and the higher emphasis on horns across this record. Per the usual, the songwriting is lovely, and for the most part, it's a perfectly enjoyable listen. There's very little I don't enjoy on here because I love the majority of what Rufus Wainwright puts to tape, and tracks such as the title track, Going to a Town, Nobody's Off the Hook, and Slideshow are all excellent, which he actually did play Going to a Town whenever I saw him. It's another very strong 4 stars. It's an incredibly enjoyable record. Just, I really, really love Rufus Wainwright. which is why the next record I'm talking about is called Rufus Wainwright. It's a fantastic start for Rufus. The draw is his immaculate vocal work. These are the youngest and probably the most bare that they ever sound. And his air for the theatrical and passion is there from the start. The sound of this record is fair, but he'd have better productions after this. The same goes for the arrangements, but the songs themselves are just already at the top form that Rufus would elevate to. The opening three-song stretch of Foolish Love, Danny Boy, and April Fools is incredible. It's a very solid release that only falls lower due to me having other records I prefer more. It's at a pretty solid 4 stars. Instead, at my number 3, I'm going to be talking about Unfollow The Rules. This was Rufus's comeback after not having done a more traditional pop record since 2012 at this point. And it's incredible. Yeah, I'm at 4.5 stars. I think that it's great. It feels like more of a potential want 3 in a sense. Him digging into his life after his break. By its core, it's being built from sort of more fantastic and memorable chamber pop tunes. Rufus is incredible, and his writing hasn't aged for a moment. Trouble in Paradise and Damsel in Distress are immediately Rufus classics. This one's for ladies is a bunch of fun, and Devils and Angels is probably the best song of his since Want 2. It's a fantastic album that is maybe one of my favorites of an artist just taking a break from music and then coming back, because this is right there with my number 2, which my number 2 is going to be Poses. Um, it's already such a step forward from the debut. Wainwright's vocals are tighter, the songs are better written, the production is lush, it's gorgeous, but it has like this a very light undercurrent of modern 2000s production. Kind of reminds me in a weird sense of like Lost in Space by Amy Mann and that, to where there's these sort of weird drum sounds and like occasional electronic elements that seep into the tracks, but I think that they're incorporated so organically that it really works. Rufus, in a lot of ways, he's just a comfort artist for me. There's a sense of melancholy throughout all of his music that always pulls me in. But in a way, eh, but in a way, there's plenty of beauty and love there as well. Tracks such as the title track, Shadows, and his cover of Loudon's song, One Man Guy, shows that off incredibly well. The arrangements are just all really outstanding here. It's on the borderline of 5 stars, but it's just 4.5 for me. It is an incredible record. But my favorite Rufus Wainwright record, it's been this way ever since I first heard it. I believe it may have also been the first Rufus Wainwright record that I heard. That's going to be his album Want One. To me, it's a step forward from everything that came before it, a little bit more theatrical and reaches more inward than any other Rufus records I feel. To me, it comes together fully through that. The writing is strong, and you get his best arrangements here. Cuts such as Oh What a World, I Don't Know What It Is, 14th Street, and Natasha are all just amazing songs, and the consistency shown here is unparalleled on any other record for me. Sure, I love all the songs on Poses, I love all the songs on Unfollow the Rules, I love all the songs on Folkrockasy, but I think on here it is just a 14 track. This could be a greatest hits for me, with just how strong they are. You could put this record on for me at any time, and I would just get absolutely lost on the arrangements. I would be blown away by his vocal work, and it would just continue to just pulsate all around me for time and time until it ends and I turn it back on. It's a pretty big comfort record for me, which is what I would call Rufus in general. It is an easy 5 star release for me. Rufus was kind of a creeper artist for me. I always had like a slight issue to him, and I did enjoy them. But as I just continue to listen more and more and more, he just continues to build. He's at this point potentially a top 10 artist for me. There are very few songwriters that really reach me on the emotional resonance that Rufus Wainwright does. Absolutely adore pretty much all that he puts to tape, and I think that he is one of the best songwriters within the last 25 years at this point. I think this was a great experience. I love going through this catalog, and I really hope that you give him a shot. That being said, I hope that you all have a great one.